Welcome to Get Unstuck with Wendy B. Thank you for being here. And I wanted to know how, are you letting upsets take you out? You know how certain things can take you out, your kids behaving a certain way and they have some plans and then they just can't do those plans because the behavior took you out or what they said took you out. So I'm inviting you to look at, do you let upsets take you out, take you off course? I am Wendy Bergen. I am a transformational solution coach, and I transform your perception of yourself and others one conversation at a time. And I have a best-selling book called Getting Unstuck with Wendy Bergen, 30 Ways to Bring Clarity, Freedom, and Power. And you can get that on Amazon on digital or paperback. So let's just step right into it. I do some work with kids, ministry kids, and one day one of the 15-year-olds came home and he was just so upset. And I could tell like he was grumpy and normally he, high and everything. I get him a snack and he just, and I said, so what's going on? Let's call him Jacob. And what's going on, Jacob? And nothing. And he goes, well, you don't seem yourself. And I said, did something happen at school? And he said, yes. And I said, well, what happened? And he said his English teacher had yelled at him, and that the kids started laughing and making fun of him. And so he was totally embarrassed, and he was really angry. And so I said, well, I know this exercise, I lead a course called Reclaim Your Power, and hi Michelle, I said, would you like to do this exercise with me and see if we could release your upset? And he said yes. And so so I said, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions, and are you willing to let the upset go? First off, this exercise only works if someone's really upset. And so I said to him, from a scale of 0 to 10, what level of upset are you at? And he said an 8 or a 9. I said, perfect. And so we started, and I said, you're willing to let this upset go? And he said, yes. So I said, okay, great. So the first question I asked him is, what do you need to say so that this upset can be complete? And at first he's like saying little things. I said, no, you don't have to be responsible. And hi, Ronnie, thank you. Why don't you make a comment and say hello? Say hello to me, Michelle and Ronnie. Thank you for watching. So I said, you don't have to be responsible about what you say. Like, you just say the stuff that you would normally not say. You can use swear words. You can tell me how angry you are. Just let her rip. So for a couple of minutes, he said what he needed to say about the teacher. The teacher was unfair. He swore a little bit, and this teacher was after him. And hello, Ronnie. And so, anyways, he said, and I kept asking that question. So, what do you need to say to get completed? Is there anything else you need to say? And he kept it up and kept speaking. And then finally, he said, no, there's nothing more that I need to say to get complete. And I said, great. So the next question I asked Jacob was, what do you need to hear so that you can be complete? And he thought about that, and this is really neat because I did a podcast on, or a Facebook Live on, I brought a Facebook Live on apology, and what he needed to hear from the teacher was that even he needed the teacher to apologize to him for centering him out and yelling at him and making the other kids laugh at him. And so that was neat. And then so what I did, because this is a two-person thing, you can do it by yourself, but it's better to do it with two people, was Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you. So I spoke as if I was a teacher, and I said to him, "So Jacob, I apologize for losing my temper in the classroom. I could have handled that a little differently. I didn't like what you did, but I could have handled it differently, and I totally apologize for yelling. It was unnecessary for me to yell, and I apologize that in my yelling and centering you out, that the other kids made fun of you, and I apologize that I didn't stop the other kids from laughing, that I didn't address that. I totally apologize." And then, and you could just see the relief on Jacob. Like, he was just like, because even though it wasn't the teacher speaking, I was speaking as the teacher. It was just like, it released something for him. And then I kept asking that question, what do you need for me to say so that you could be complete? But usually, once somebody says what is needed to say, there's not a lot more. I mean, there is some, with some people, when I've done this exercise with some people, if it's a real lengthy one. I did it with a fellow who had an upset with his mom for 20 years. He had a lot he needed to hear from his mom. But in an incident like this, it wasn't like that apology was enough. And then after we did this, I said, "So Jacob, when you look at the incident," because there was nothing more he needed to say, I was like, "Where could you be responsible for this upset? Like, what was your part in it that caused the teacher to yell? Like, where can you be responsible, 100% responsible?" And Jacob looked and he went, "Well, the teacher said not to, if we had the answer, not to tell other kids in the classroom, let them figure it out, because that was part of the exercise in the classroom, was for others to figure it out, and he wanted everybody to have an opportunity to figure it out, so he didn't want anybody blurting out the answer." And I didn't mean to. I was so excited. I just blurted out the answer. I said, "Oh, great, Jacob. So you know that that's where you can be responsible." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Great. Is there anything else?" And I'm not saying that there is anything else, but is there anything else that you could see where you could be responsible around this incident? And so Jacob looked and he said, "Yeah, I frequently get overexcited, and I say things to the teacher that aren't nice sometimes, like I make flippant remarks." And I said, "Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad you could see that." And then I asked him, "Is there anywhere else in this incident, just in this incident, where you could be responsible? Like, was there anything else that you could be responsible for around this incident occurring?" And I'm not saying that there is anything more, because you've taken a lot of responsibility already looking at your part, but is there anything else? And he said, no, that he was complete. And I said, "Great. So there's nothing more you could be responsible for to get complete around this upset?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Great." And I said, "So Jacob, could you tell me what's the lesson that you learned from this exercise? Like, when you look at this incident, what are the lessons that you've learned from looking at this incident and seeing your part?" And what was really neat is he saw that he could be quieter and less restless. Like, he learned that it doesn't pay to have an attitude with a teacher. because if you have an attitude with a teacher, they'll send you out each time. So that was good. He saw that, and that he also saw that the lesson he learned was that he could apologize to the teacher for his part, like authentically, not like with an attitude, but like, hey, you know, I know I shouldn't have done that, and for some reason I did, and I'm sorry, you know. But he saw the lesson he learned was that when he gets excited, that he needs to really look at not speaking in a situation like that, especially when he's been told not to. And he saw that that it did spoil it for the other kids, you know, because then they didn't learn the lesson that the teacher had planned. So he learned that blurting out, even though he's excited, there's an impact on others, and that's what he saw. So it was really neat, and that just by asking those questions and focusing on Jacob and what he needed, so I said, Jacob, we're finished this exercise. Can you tell me now, like you were from 0 to 10, you were at an 8 before we started this exercise around your upset. Can you tell me where you are now from 0 to 10 in your upset? And he said 0. And then he said, wow, I can't believe it, that I was so upset a few minutes ago, and now it's just totally disappeared. And I said, yes, you know, when we're upset and we can be heard, like we say what we need to say, we hear what we need to hear, we take responsibility for our part, and we look at the lesson, it deflates all the drama. Like it just takes the drama. And he said, yeah, that's what I saw. He said, I came home and I was just like, rah, 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 rah. And now there's no drama. And I told him how proud I was of him, that he took responsibility for his upset, and that he was willing to get complete and disappear it and work with me, and that at any time he had an upset, that I'd be willing to do that with him again. And that was really satisfying. So what, you know, it's like, and I also did this with a gentleman that he had, we were doing some work together, and he had an upset with his mom, and it had been festering for over 20 years. And I worked with him for an hour. And this upset exercise can basically usually be done in 15 minutes. But this young man, he was 39 years old, and he had never said what he needed to say, and he was being really polite. And I said, no, those aren't the thoughts that you usually have when you're upset with your mom about this incident. Like there was an incident, and it repeated. It was around money. And it took him a while, because he was such a polite young man and such a responsible man, before he could really say what he needed to say. And then at the end of the exercise, with this young man who's 39, he was free. And he said to me, you know, this has been bothering me for 20 years. I am so free. Thank you. So why I'm sharing this is that I'm giving this exercise. If you want a complimentary opportunity, you can book a session on my website, which is wendyberger.com, and you can book a complimentary 15-minute session with me, and we can look at an upset, and I invite you to disappear it. And you need to be committed to disappearing it, and I would love to do that with you, and by working with you. So it's complimentary, especially during this COVID-19 time. Like there's just such, you know, people, because we are, you know, having to wear masks, and we're uncertain, there's such uncertain times, and people are dealing with things, you know, medically, like Ronnie, I know you're dealing with something medically. I keep praying, you're in my prayers twice a day. And you know, we can, when we're confined more than we've been normally confined, and there's not the usual outlets to let things out, that we can get upset. But my invitation is we don't have to stay there. So I'm inviting anybody who would like to have a complimentary 15-minute session with me. Book it on wendybergen.com. I invite you to buy my book, Getting Unstuck, and on Amazon. It's by Wendy Bergen. I think there's a couple of books called Getting Unstuck, but mine's by Wendy Bergen, 30 Ways to Bring Clarity, Freedom, and Power when we let go of our belief systems. So thank you for listening, and join me next Sunday at 12 noon at Getting Unstuck with Wendy B. You can check out my podcast, Thriving at 60, and yeah, just take advantage. And hey, Ronnie, thank you. Have a good, see you next Sunday, and maybe I'll give you a phone call and see how you're doing. All right, take care. Love you, Ronnie. Bye-bye.